Hi there, welcome to the broadcast on this 18th day of April 2019. It's 9 o'clock. These are our top stories.
Tonight, perils of indifference. Kenya's maize stocks could run out in 2 months as cabinet warns maize millers in bid to curtail rising prices of maize flour.
Also tonight, the single source of truth or confusion.
We will say, unless you have a Huduma number, you don't have a SIM card.
One says this, the other says that, as indecision over Huduma number continues despite clear orders from the High Court.
The grand proposal that may change the banking landscape.
There is an element of the rate caps in this. And to the extent that a number of banks that can't survive through the rate cap are voluntarily giving up business.
KCB Bank moves to buy the National Bank.
Plus, a family's great loss.
We will take care of me the way you did.
Grief greets the village of Mahiga in Nyeri County as slain university student Ivy Wangi is laid to rest.
NTV Tonight with Mark Masai and Smriti Vidyarthi.
Certainly glad you've joined us on NTV tonight. David Agondo is a sign language interpreter. And to our top story. The government has warned maize millers against hiking the price of maize flour in the face of a reported maize shortage.
Now, millers had already adjusted the recommended retail price for a 2-kilo packet of flour by up to 10%, with the Agriculture Ministry agreeing to release 2 million bags of maize to millers from the strategic reserves to check the rising prices.
A cabinet meeting chaired by President Uhuru Kenyatta today warned of consequences for millers who hike the price of maize meal or hoard maize.
NTV's Zainab Ismail has more details.
Of maize flour in the country has already gone up by about 27 shillings in just 2 weeks to hit an average high of 117 shillings for a 2-kilo packet, marking one of the steepest rises within a short span of time in recent times. This means you'll have to dig deeper to eat your usual ration of ugali. Millers have attributed this rise to the prolonged drought situation in the country. But the government has warned the millers against hoarding maize and other essential food items, blaming the drought crisis in a resolution during a cabinet meeting chaired by President Uhuru Kenyatta on Thursday. The cabinet noted that the counties of Turkana, Mandera, Garissa, Marsabit and Wajir are experiencing worsened drought situation, jumping from the alert stage to the alarm stage.
All what I can tell you is that we have enough maize to last this country until July.
Maize millers have expressed concerns that the current stock is not enough. They warned that the cost of the staple will rise beyond the peak of 135 shillings a packet recorded back in 2017, which forced the state to offer subsidies to maize importers to help lower the cost of flour. A committee to be chaired by the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government has however been established and charged with the responsibility of putting in place mitigation measures for the remainder of the year until December 2019. Maize growers harvested at least 40 million bags last season, and it is estimated that they still have more than 25 million bags in their stores. Zainab Ismail, NTV.
Well, as food security concerns continue to grow in the country, with quarters calling for imports, the Tegemeo Institute of Agricultural Policy has released a report that indicates that the country has enough maize stocks to last through to June 2019.
As Zainab Wandati reports, the same Tegemeo report says the government needs to come up with a plan fast because by the end of July, the country will be in the red with no maize left.
It is no secret that 2019 is going to be a bad year for farmers, but exactly how bad a situation it will be is not clear because there's no sufficient data with which to do a proper food balance analysis. There's a disagreement over exactly how much maize there is in the country, and it has the government and the farmers throwing accusations at each other, with each blaming the other for the shortage currently being experienced. The Tegemeo Institute of Agricultural Policy says that even though the lack of data is forcing the government to rely on estimates, the organization's research indicates that the government is being truthful when it says there are 21 million bags of maize in the country.
Kenya has a long-term average target of 40 million bags per year. That is supposed to keep us until the harvest of the 2019 season. So we are talking about July, which is usually the time we begin harvesting the long grain harvest for 2019.
The Tegemeo Institute report, however, indicates that the rising maize prices and subsequent increases in the cost of unga is nothing unique, because the trend has been the same over the last few years between harvests. What is unique about 2019, though, is that whereas in other years prices rose gradually, prices remained low this year before rising sharply in March. Yesterday, the Ministry of Agriculture agreed to release 2 million bags to stabilize the market, a move that has been seen as reactionary.
We had given the counties the opportunity as a first line of defense to deal with it. Only when the counties are overwhelmed, the national government comes in. So it's not that we delayed or that we are being reactive.
The other thing that Kenyans do not understand is that we are only supposed to buy surplus. Are you getting me? We are not supposed to buy from farmers. We are only supposed to cushion them when they have surplus, we buy. Number two, we buy the maize so that strategically, when there is price fluctuation, we can now come in and stabilize.
Millers say that the grades 3 and 4 maize that the ministry will release is not fit for milling and can only be used as animal feed. This means that if the millers reject the grain on offer, then the price of unga is not coming down anytime soon. In previous years, maize deficits in Kenya have been bridged by imports from Southern Africa and East Africa, as well as the larger Comesa region. But given that all these regions are facing a crisis, Kenya's options of food sources are growing thinner by the day. The Ministry of Agriculture says that Kenyans shouldn't worry too much about this because a solution will have been found by the time the current stocks run out. But Tegemeo Institute says that this is not an appropriate answer in such a situation because a plan is needed now about what the country will do come July.
The prediction is that remember that for both the short train for 2018 and now the 2019 long grain seasons are not going to be good harvest seasons. So we do hope that the short train for 2019, there can be some relief.
When we are overwhelmed as national government, that's when we can now declare this a national disaster. We are not yet there.
With the long rains having failed, the season's harvest is projected to fall significantly, but conclusive data on this is not available yet. For now, farmers can only replant and hope for rain. Zainab Wandati, NTV.
From food banks to commercial banks, the KCB Bank is on course to increase its size as the largest lender in the region with its announcement today that it intends to fully acquire the National Bank.
And the proposed acquisition by KCB will push its asset base to 830 billion shillings, just 170 billion shy of the trillion shilling mark.
NTV's Julian Samboko breaks down this landmark deal.
The banking sector has been awash with mergers and acquisitions over the last 2 years, including the acquisition of Chase Bank by the State Bank of Mauritius in 2018, the acquisition of Habib Bank by Diamond Trust Bank in 2017, and the ongoing merger between NIC and CBA banks. Analysts say a proposal to acquire National Bank was a matter of when and not if. Profits are sagging, capital adequacy is wanting, and in an environment of interest rate caps, the bank was running out of options.
There is an element of the rate caps in this, and to the extent that a number of banks that can't survive through the rate cap are voluntarily giving up business. And I think you would see, after this transaction, I think you would see another tier 3, some of the transactions moving to tier 3 now.
If the Kenyan market has been pushing for large banks, this acquisition promises to fit the bill. The two banks combined will have an asset base of 830 billion shillings, a loan book of just over 500 billion shillings, and customer deposits standing at 636 billion shillings. The deal is to be executed through a swap of 1 KCB share for every 10 National Bank shares. But given National Bank's financial woes, what does KCB stand to gain through this acquisition?
NBK has one of the top tax collectors on behalf of Kenya Revenue Authority. In 2017, fiscal year 2017-2018, NBK collected about $1 billion. KCB collected just about $1.4 billion. Combined, these two, if the entities combined, they're going to be the top tax collecting entity. And that's number one. Number two is that NBK has one of the strongest public sector franchise. A lot of government entities, even including central government, they do a lot of banking with NBK.
According to a statement from National Bank, the acquisition will be subject to a number of conditions, including its delisting from the Nairobi Securities Exchange and securing of regulatory approvals from the Competition Authority, the Capital Markets Authority, and the Central Bank of Kenya. If it sails through, the deal is poised to cement KCB Bank's presence in the market, coming just a fortnight after the Central Bank and the Kenya Deposit Insurance Corporation accepted its binding offer for Imperial Bank, which will, among others, have KCB take over 5 branches of the embattled lender. The KCB share closed Thursday's trade at 45 shillings, a marginal 0.1% gain compared to its close yesterday. If this is an indication of how investors have warmed up to the information of the proposed acquisition, many are clearly waiting to see just how it will steer National Bank's business away from financial headwinds. Julians Amboko, NTV.
Right, elsewhere, former National Lands Commission Chairman Mohammed Swazuri will stay in police custody until Tuesday next week after the court postponed a ruling on his bail and bond terms.
Not quite the Easter holiday he was looking forward to. Swazuri is among 24 people who have been charged in court with the loss of 109 million shillings, which is said to have been paid irregularly as part of land compensation.
The compensation, the court was told, was for land set aside for the construction of the Southern Bypass and the Kipevu Terminal Link Road. Swazuri is accused of abuse of office and conspiracy to defraud the government. He has denied the charges, the same as his co-accused, who include the former NLC official, Emma Njogu, and the Deputy Director of Valuation and Taxation, Joash Oindo.
The other accused persons face charges of financial misconduct, unlawful acquisition of public property, dealing with suspect property, and money laundering.
Considering that it has other matters which it has not been able to deal with, it will adjourn this decision on this ruling to Tuesday, 23rd April 2019 at 2:30 p.m.
British financial investigators of the High Commission in Kenya and the United Kingdom are tracking bank accounts and operations of suspects involved in embezzling public funds.
This is a disclosure by the Director of Public Prosecutions in England and Wales, Queen's Counsel Max Hill. Now, he's in the country for what he said was an initiative to strengthen the collaboration with Kenya's Directorate of Public Prosecutions, led by DPP Nordin Haji, in the fight against corruption and terrorism and recovering stolen loot hidden in foreign countries.
NTV's Mel Miendo tells us more.
Director of Public Prosecutions Nordin Haji has been trailing stolen loot hidden in foreign countries by suspected corrupt individuals accused of siphoning money from public coffers. This has prompted Haji to seek help from the United Kingdom. And in collaborating and cooperating in the fight against organized crime, the public prosecutor for England and Wales, Max Hill, confirmed the UK's commitment.
We are working with you to tackle serious crime, to tackle organised crime, and to tackle transnational crime. And I want, therefore, to send a message in a small way by my presence today.
The British government maintains that public officers implicated in graft cases must step aside and allow authorities conclude investigations, adding asset recovery is a priority.
As soon as convictions are in place for the corrupt in Kenya, where they have assets in the United Kingdom, those assets will be restored to Kenya.
We've been dealing with quite a number of corruption cases and other cases, especially terrorism cases, and we've had a lot of support from the government of the UK.
Top of the list of cases being investigated is the Aror and Kimorer Dam scandal that has seen a number of CSs and PSs grilled by detectives, but no arrests yet. The DPP is urging that Kenyans remain patient.
We've asked the British government to help us, and in one way or the other they have. But I've said this, that there are more jurisdictions. It's not just the United Kingdom. There are other jurisdictions involved. We have also approached, with the help of the British government, to help us in trying to conclude the investigations on the dams and other investigations.
DPP Haji is to travel to Jersey Island early May, seeking to resolve legal hurdles facing the intended extradition of ex-Nambale Member of Parliament Chris Okemo and former Kenya Power and Lighting Company Chief Executive Samuel Gishuru, accused of graft.
We will not just be taking people to court for the sake of it. We are changing our approach from the traditional generic charges. We're going for the money.
Consultations between the ODPP in the UK and in Kenya began in April during a Commonwealth meeting in Uganda. Mel Miendo, NTV.
All right, from corruption to security, and the country has been put under heavy police surveillance with security checkpoints mounted at all entry points as domestic and international tourists arrive here in Kenya for the Easter holiday.
In his first media briefing, Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai assured Kenyans of maximum security during the Easter holiday.
Well, he also announced a crackdown on motorists and motorcyclists who flout traffic rules.
Yesterday, there was an alert on imminent terrorist attack circulating on social media. I wish to assure the country that there was no cause for alarm. All necessary security steps have been taken. The country is secure, and security agencies through multi-agency security management system is monitoring and managing our security appropriately. We therefore call upon Kenyans to cooperate with police to ensure that tranquility prevails throughout the holidays.
Now, in July last year, NTV aired a story of a 22-year-old student who was run over along Mombasa Road next to the Next Gen Mall. Maureen Wamboi Gashagua's body would later be found a few meters away in a ditch around the Bellevue area, having been allegedly dumped.
Now, the matter has been in court since then, and a conclusion of the same seems to be on the horizon. Today, the court found that Prison Sergeant Dismas Gitenge has a case to answer in the death of the then Kenyatta University student.
Now, Gitenge has told the court that he has prepared a defense. His lawyer states that the defense will present 3 witnesses. The case will be heard on the 29th of this month.
Gitenge is facing 3 criminal charges, namely causing death by dangerous driving, failing to stop after an accident, and giving false information to a police officer.
The reason why we keep coming here because we don't come here generally because an accident happened. We come here because of what happened after the accident. The accused threw my sister in a ditch, and he reported that he hit a cow. So I'm still waiting to see who is the cow here.
We've been in this journey since last year to show solidarity with the family of Maureen. We are trying to seek justice, and we are hopeful that very soon, even if not very soon, one day we'll find justice for Maureen.
It has been hard, especially for my mother. It's not easy. Up to date, she can't talk about it. Even she didn't bury my sister. I would say she didn't bury my sister. She couldn't bear the pain.
We can only imagine the hurt of the family and hope that justice indeed is delivered for Maureen and the late Maureen and her family. We take a break here at this point. We'll be back with more. Stay with NTV Tonight.
Threatening to disconnect SIM cards for Kenyans who will not have registered for their Huduma number upon the lapse of the deadline.
However, the president's chief of staff, Nzioka Waita, moved to do some damage control by saying that the government has no such demands and is guided by the courts, which removed timelines and made registration voluntary.
NTV's Charity Mwangi reports.
Communications Authority Director General Francis Wangusi is the latest senior government official to issue threats that are aimed at nudging a seemingly uninspired nation to buy into the new registration policy.
We are waiting for the 45 days to end. We will say, unless you have a Huduma number, you don't have a SIM card.
In his usual abrasive style, Wangusi, a key and senior government official who must be well aware of court orders against compulsory registration and the deadline invoked by the president, went on to talk of the government's determination to enforce the order.
So prepare yourself. And when we say it that way, it could be a polite order, but it is an order that is enforceable. So all the service providers who provide SIM cards, unless you have that Huduma number, you will not get a SIM card.
State House has moved to clarify its position on the issue. Chief of Staff Nzioka Waita has attempted to put out the fire started by Wangusi. He said in a tweet, "For the avoidance of doubt, Huduma number registration is a voluntary exercise in compliance with the ruling of the courts. There is no directive from the government to institute any punitive measures against those who don't register. More emphasis will be laid on civic education." End quote. Wangusi's goof is not the first by a high-ranking public officer. In quite a moment of candor, Immigration Principal Secretary Gordon Kihalangwa made a similar threat.
It is a very important thing because it will not only assist us on security matters, it will also assist us in service delivery. And of course, if you are not in NIMS, and you are actually applying for a passport, then we know very well that you are not a Kenyan.
The court directed government to do away with the 45-day deadline it had set for Kenyans to attain the number. But in an exclusive interview with NTV, Interior CS Fred Matiang'i went against this.
I don't think there is any reason to extend or to talk about an extension.
Charity Mwangi, NTV.
That's not the only thing that's driving Kenyans crazy. The government noticed that contributions to the National Housing Development Fund are due by May 9th, contrary to court orders, has led an already overburdened taxpayer almost to the brink.
Well, now the Jubilee administration is once again seeking to forcefully impose another tax on the citizenry before laying what the experts say is the proper groundwork for the scheme.
NTV's Olive Burrows explores why this is of particular concern in a country where past government initiatives have run aground after padding the pockets of a crafty few fat cats.
The Jubilee administration's latest scheme, the National Housing Development Fund, is already suffering a massive lack of public confidence even before the plan gets off the starting blocks. The Federation of Kenya Employers, the Central Organization of Trade Unions and the Consumer Federation of Kenya all opposing the levy as presently packaged in court. But just like the value-added tax on petroleum products last year, President Kenyatta's government appears bent on bulldozing it through, not even bothering to pretend to employ a democratic system.
Honorable members, will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as our contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
The experts concerned that the Jubilee government is rushing to market with a product it's yet to fully test.
It came on a short notice and then they are trying to implement as you go on, which doesn't work in a public policy setup. If you're trying to implement a structure, a policy that is a medium term. So it doesn't build public confidence. And that's the biggest problem with this policy, because it will not work the moment you have lack of public confidence in it, because you're asking people for their contribution and they're not aware on what exactly you're trying to do.
The outcry I'm seeing around Kenyans is that is overburdening
the employers and the employees in terms of this fund. So have we looked into other alternatives in terms of using our pension money, even the statutory one, NSSF, to tap into the same, and using other private pensions to tap into the same?
The experts skeptical that the housing fund is the answer to Kenya's affordable housing deficiency.
They were planning 500 houses for 5 years. We're already 2 years down. I think government has done, 10,000 so far from what I've heard. So government will have to build around 12,000 units a month, which is technically impossible.
We're already 1 year, and we just perhaps broke ground for 1,800 houses, and we need to do like up to 1 million in the next 3 years or 4 years.
The regulations vague on the return on investment, and with members likely to suffer double taxation at the point of contribution and again upon withdrawal.
Employers are wondering, what is it in for us? There's no tax incentive. They're even being penalized 5% if they delay to pay. So what is it in for employers? And given that also employers are already paying other statutory, including pension for their staff, there's tax. So increasing employers' wage bill without giving an incentive around it.
What is exacting in the regulations is the penalty for failing to remit towards the housing fund. A failure by employers to remit the funds, earning the same 10,000 shilling fine and 2-year jail sentence, provided for those who may choose to help themselves to the fund. Section 25 reading, a person who misappropriates any funds or assets of the housing fund or assists or causes any person to misappropriate or apply the funds otherwise than in the manner provided in these regulations commits an offence and shall, upon conviction, be liable to imprisonment for a term of 2 years or to a fine not exceeding 10,000 shillings or to both. A slap on the wrist by any measure and hardly a deterrent in a system overrun by corruption. The consensus appearing to be that the Jubilee administration is very likely courting another white elephant at an annual cost of 55 billion shillings to the Kenyan taxpayer.
World over, governments come in to mainly facilitate affordable housing.
And as for those who argue that 1.5% of one's gross pay is a negligible sum of money.
So to say that 1.5% is minimal is to lie to Kenyans, because you are you're making a deduction now without a salary hike or the economy itself performing better. So the income levels in Kenya are the same, but you've introduced a new deduction. So technically, government is taking more from people.
Olive Burrows, NTV.
Well, the government has defended the housing fund levy against claims that it was a sham and one with no intention or plan to benefit Kenyans who are expected to contribute to the scheme.
Transport and Housing Principal Secretary Charles Hinga says that the scheme is anchored in law or on law and that all those who contribute will benefit.
Well, he also says that mechanisms have been put in place to protect the funds and that those who do not want the houses are at liberty to withdraw their contributions.
PS Hinga spoke this morning on the AM Live show hosted by NTV's Debal Ainer, and Silas Apollo filed this report.
Now, on the circle, speaking in the wake of increasing criticism of the proposed housing fund levy by the government, Transport and Housing Principal Secretary Charles Hinga now says that those opposed to the scheme are alarmists. The PS who was speaking during the NTV's early morning show, AM Live, said that all concerns that had been raised by stakeholders have been addressed by the government. Hinga, for instance, argues that the fund is not new. This housing fund was established in 1967 in the Housing Act Cap 117. And all we did was to operationalize this fund. Now, the process of operationalization of the fund went through very intense public participation. The PS was also quick to point out that the ministry has gone to great lengths to consult with all those who had raised concerns, including the Federation of Kenya Employers and the Central Organization of Trade Unions, who lodged complaints in court. As far as we are concerned, the matter was settled, and that's why we went and proceeded to now, embark on the process of asking employers to remit. Right. Hinga says that FKE had moved to court to challenge the establishment of an advisory board of the fund, a matter it later withdrew and agreed on with the ministry. Same to Kotu, which also withdrew its petition questioning why regulations were published without representation. And on the safety of the funds and how they will be used, the PS says that all monies contributed will be protected and accounted for.
The contribution confers a direct right to you. You either get a house. If you don't get a house and retire, you get back your money. 2, if you don't, the earlier of retirement of 15 years, you get back your money. In the process, you still retain the right on how that money is used. You can elect to assign that benefit or confer that benefit to your son so that when they come out of university, they have a degree and they have a house.
Hinga also sought to allay fears that the scheme may lock out those who are not in formal employment, saying structures are in place to allow them access to the funds.
Even in rural areas, we will still finance you because you still need to finance you to get a house. The contributions that you're making allows us to provide mortgages at 3% for those who are in the social housing. You spoke about categories. We have classified Kenyans based on income. So social housing earning less than 20,000, you get 3% interest, 25 years to pay.
Silas Apollo, NTV.
Now, something is afoot at the police air wing, and it smells to high heaven.
For one, it acquired 3 helicopters last year at a cost of 4.5 billion shillings, but only one has been commissioned to fly.
From the word go, there were signs that not everything was hunky-dory about these contraptions. And so today, only 2 helicopters out of the 15 aircraft owned by the police are in operation.
The Daily Nation has been investigating the goings-on at the police air wing, and tomorrow reveals the negligence, incompetence and outright theft of public funds through, among others, ghost pilot training projects that has been happening for decades.
Do not miss your copy of the Daily Nation.
This is why many have been saying, Kenya, simama nishuke.
All right, on that note, let's take a breather on NTV Tonight. There's much more coming up after the break.
week at the market. Welcome to the program. I am Julian Amboko. Now, the cabinet has approved the development of the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport to James Gishuru Expressway project, also known as the Nairobi Expressway project. The project will have several components, key among them being the development of a multi-lane highway from JKIA to the James Gishuru Road junction along Wayaki Way, which will cover 18.6 kilometers. The other component will be the development of a bus rapid transit system, which will comprise of BRT stations, park and ride facilities at the high-demand commuter transfer points. The cabinet also approved the data protection policy and law. The law seeks to guard personal data against misuse and eliminate the unwarranted invasion of privacy, which is a constitutional right. Also approved at Thursday's meeting before Easter holiday was the Kenya investment policy, which aims to consolidate the fragmented investment-related policies, creating a framework that establishes a strong coordinating mechanism in the country. Now, the effect of the ongoing drought that has hit some parts of the country is also being felt in the dairy sector. From the North Rift, our reporter Gabriel Kudaka met with players in the industry and now delves into the impact of the prevailing drought situation on their main source of livelihood.
Willie Kirwa is a large-scale dairy farmer from Kapseret in Uasin Gishu County. To mitigate against drought and to ensure constant supply of feeds for his dairy animals, Kirwa normally puts 30 acres of his land under maize production purely for silage. That backup measure, however, seems to be under threat due to prolonged drought.
Ukiangalia shamba mahindi imechaminate kidogo kidogo, ambaye unajua kwamba ama unaona kwamba ile mahindi ingine tayari unaona imeharibika. Ile silage ambaye niko naye kufikia mwezi wa 8 sitakuwa nimeharvest kwa sababu tayari mvua imechelewa. Unaona kwamba labda tu harvest kuanzia mwezi wa 12 ama mwezi wa 11.
The high temperatures have not only threatened the health of the maize, but also the production of milk by his cows that are in a zero grazing unit. A vivid picture of the effects of the dry spell is well painted at Lelchago Milk Cooling Plant in Mosoriot within Nandi County.
Dairy animals are struggling to get water, families are struggling to get water. It is disastrous.
This milk cooling plant used to receive between 15,000 to 18,000 liters of milk per day, but now it only receives about 2,000 liters due to prolonged drought. The company is feeling the heat of the drought quite literally on its operational costs, as the benefits of the economies of scale of servicing the area's farmers have dwindled significantly.
We had 37. Currently, we are having 19, and we are going to lay off another 10. We will remain with 9.
The drought has seen the farm gate price of milk shoot from 45 shillings to 60 shillings per litre in 1 month. The increase has also been transmitted to the price on the shelves. For now, what's next is to wait and see if the heavens will open anytime soon to offer relief to the farmers and replenish them financially. Gabriel Kudaka, NTV.
Quite some severe knock-on effects from the prevailing drought situation. Elsewhere, traders at Kitengela Open Air Market have protested a directive by the county government of Kajiado urging them to relocate from the market for upgrading. The 1,200 traders say that the county government plans to close the facility for the next 6 months to upgrade it, but has only allocated 200 spaces for them at the Kitengela playground, leaving about 1,000 traders with no space to sell their wares. The traders have also expressed displeasure over the location of the proposed site, which they say lies in the outskirts of Kitengela town and lacks shade and vital amenities such as water and toilets.
Ile mahali wanatuambia twende, hizo vibanda zote wameuza 10,000. Saa hii hakuna kibanda hata moja iko wapi, zote zimeisha. Sasa tunauliza wale watu ambao wako hapa wanataka wawapeleke wapi?
Ukitembea pale sokoni utagundua mahali ambapo tunaambiwa tupelekwe pale karibu na stage. Ni uwanja ambao uko plain, hauna chochote, hauna kifuli, hauna mahali pa kujisaidia.
Tufuate utaratibu, tunatoka wapi, tunaenda wapi, mahali tunaenda tunatoshea. Isikuwe sasa kuna watu 1,000 hapa, tuende watu 200 pale.
And that's it for the Business Bulletin tonight. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing.
The late Ivy Wangi, who was hacked to death by a man she had rejected, Naftali Kinuthia, was today laid to rest in Mahiga, Nyeri County.
Family and friends eulogized the late Ivy as a disciplined and bright student who was a light at home and at school, and who has left a gap that cannot be filled by anyone.
NTV's Melita Oletenges with more.
A white casket bearing the body of the late Ivy Wangi is carried by her family and friends shortly after arrival at the Mahiga Primary School grounds for the funeral service. Emotions ran high as mourners gathered here, embraced the reality of a final parting with a 6th-year student at Moi University School of Medicine who was murdered just a day before her 25th birthday. Family members and friends paid tribute.
Who will be buying my purses? Who will be buying my earrings and perfumes? Who will approve my clothes designs and metallos?
I don't know how to act like the firstborn, and I don't think I'm ready for it. I believe we're in a better place, happy and fine. Hopefully we meet again.
Students from Moi University, where Ivy was pursuing her medical degree, donned t-shirts bearing the caduceus medical sign, and in the front, a heart-shaped stethoscope. Alumni from Alliance High School presented the school anthem as a tribute to their colleague.
It's hard to accept that we will no longer be recipients of your infectious laughter. Your zeal to alleviate human suffering.
Political and religious leaders who attended the function condemned the acts of violence, asking the youth to consider dialogue and consultation as a way of solving disputes.
Wewe sijui unakuja hata kutuambia, sijui umetoa 10 mbili tatu hapa ya peremende, sasa lazima upendo. If you want a girl na amekukataa, pesa yako wewe kwenda kula mandazi huko na madizi kuacha kutuletea kisirani hapa ya bure. There are so many failures. Even the rains have failed to come. And we are not being violent. We are taking it to the strike.
As curtains fall for the late Ivy, many unanswered questions linger on the moral breakdown in the current society. Is the late Ivy just another student, just another daughter, or just another added figure to the crimes of passion, or will justice be served? Melita Oletenges, NTV, in Mahiga, Odhaya, Nyeri County.
And definitely Ivy Wangi is not just another statistic, and yes, this is one too many deaths that have been taking place.
And may justice be served. May her soul rest in peace.
Now, as you very well know at NTV, we appreciate our viewers, for staying true to us. Earlier this evening, NTV awarded the 3rd group of winners of the Watch and Win promotion.
Of the 10 winners, 2 walked away with a 40-inch TV each, and 8 winners shopping vouchers worth 2,500 shillings each.
The promotion that started on 29th March and ends on 31st May has seen many viewers awarded different prizes.
NTV viewers win by just watching and answering some really simple questions. The prizes to be won are daily shopping vouchers, TV screens, and fully paid holidays courtesy of Bonfire Adventures.
For free, hakuna kulipishwa.
Nishiriki kwa hii promotion ya Watch and Win, nikashinda shopping voucher ya 2,500. Nafurahia kuwa rofa fan wa NTV.
Congratulations to them. All you've got to do is watch and you could win.
Simple questions such as who's your favorite duo on news, or your favorite news channel? NTV, definitely.
All right, do stay with us. Sean Carter-Villas has the sports news up next.
To you, I'm Sean Carter-Villis with the latest sports news. Now, Sofapaka rallied from a goal down to draw 1-1 with Kariobangi Sharks and go to the top of the Kenyan Premier League log. Umaru Kusamba cancelled out George Abege's opener in the final minutes. Both Sofapaka and Bandari have 45 points, but the Dockers have an inferior goal difference. Paul Were announced his return with an assist as AFC Leopards hit Poster Rangers 3-1 to climb to 10th position, as Poster are now threatened with relegation. Tusker and Sony Sugar battled to a scoreless draw that lifted Tusker to 4th on 38 points.
Paul ni experience ilikuja ni experience tena, ukiwaona wanasukuma sana wenzao juu, wao walipata chance ya kucheza sana nje na wana objectives tofauti za siku zijazo sadiki kwa muda mdogo, short time. Inaonekana kama itasaidia na wengine au wadogo.
Now, Gor Mahia chairman Ambrose Rachier will take action against players he's accused of insubordination as the club navigates internal politics and the fallout of chaotic travel organization, and that was during the CAF Confederation matches against RS Berkane. The off-the-field problems contributed to the humiliating 7-1 aggregate defeat to the Moroccan team. Gor Mahia boss Ambrose Rachier has vowed to crack the whip on indisciplined players within the squad, days after the chaotic trip to the CAF Confederation Cup return leg in Berkane, Morocco.
As club management, we shall investigate the perpetrators of these childish and unwarranted acts and mete out appropriate punishment.
Speaking at a press briefing in Nairobi, Rachier said they paid all the players their salaries, but they still refused to train a day before their first leg match with RS Berkane in Nairobi.
Some of my own officials are instigating this. My own officials. There's no need of hiding it. And I know the people who are behind it. It's not that I don't. I know the people who are telling them that, look, don't go. Don't even go to camp. If they're going to go to camp, ask them to pay you the money they're going to pay in the camp to give you.
Further, the long-serving football administrator has absolved his management from blame in the wake of the flight delays and long layovers the team endured en route to Berkane for the return leg match.
I'm not blaming the management. Why should I blame the management? They cannot fix the airplanes. They are not... You know, we're working with our budget. Sometimes every clubs, they get financial problems everywhere you go to in Europe.
So internal politics rocking Gor Mahia, and the fact that all these years later it is still a community club. The only way forward for Gor Mahia to progress in both local and international football is for the commercialization of the club. Photos circulated on social media of club treasurer Sally Bolo in an upgraded seat on an aircraft, while the players were sleeping on the floor in Doha, which was denied by Rachier.
So the spurious allegations that the officials traveled on first class and that the players were left suffering, who betide the manufacturers.
Sisi kama players, sisi hatuwezi ingilia juu sisi kazi yetu ni kucheza, so si hatukujua hata vile vitu zinaendelea, but I hope maybe in future maybe vitu zitakuwa poa cause hii ilikuwa opportunity nyingine lakini ya kusonga step haya.
Despite the club's good run in the continental competition, it has been a costly affair. Besides the logistical cost, Kogalo was also fined 1.5 million shillings by CAF for crowd troubles that marred their matches against Petro Atletico of Angola and Hussein Dey of Algeria at home. Gor Mahia will now turn their focus to their title defence, with a KPL match against Bandari lined up for Tuesday. Boston Marathon champion Lawrence Cherono received a traditional welcome, and that was on his return to the country. To celebrate his exploits, Cherono was adorned with a Kalenjin ceremonial plant known as Sinendet, handed a spear and a shield normally given to a hero, and finally receiving or enjoying a sip of the traditional milk mursik. Lois Wangoi was at the Eldoret airport, and she filed this report.
A song and dance, a heroic welcome for Lawrence Cherono, who won Monday's Boston Marathon in a sprint finish. Cherono clocked 2 hours 7 minutes 57 seconds to outsmart two-time champion Delisa Desisa of Ethiopia and compatriot Kenneth Kipkemoi and bag his first World Marathon Majors victory.
Kitu ya maana kuvumilia kwa sababu huwezi jua wakati wa mwisho kwa race nini inafanyika. So nikasema wacha nivumilie hivyo, and the last thing ni kusema ya kwamba wacha ni raise our Kenya flag high so that kila mtu afurahi.
Kaptagat-based Cherono, who prevailed in the closet Boston Marathon finish since the year 2000, drew his inspiration from his older brother Benson Cherono, the winner of the Milano Marathon, as well as departed Kenyan great, the late Samuel Wanjiro.
Si rahisi, ni kitu ya kuvumilia na kufanya mazoezi mzuri.
The 2017 and 2018 Amsterdam Marathon winner, who earned 15 million shillings for his exploits on the streets of Boston, dedicated his win to his wife, Winnie Kibene, and elder brother Benson.
When I saw the last 50 meters, I was almost losing up, and I remember nilikuwa nimeambia mimi nakupea number 1, number 2. Based on the training umekuwa ukifanya, I believe on you, and you did the best.
Officials from the Baringo and Uasin Gishu county governments were at hand to receive Lawrence Cherono.
Lawrence, you have done us proud as a county. You are our son. And when we are watching him winning, we were so excited and we are so happy.
From here, Lawrence Cherono says we'll be catching a breather to get some well-deserved rest, after which he will be consulting with his family and coaches on what next when it comes to his racing career. Lois Wangoi, NTV Sports, Eldoret.
And finally, Unai Emery believes his Arsenal side have a 50-50 chance of reaching the Europa League semi-finals, and that's despite taking a 2-0 lead into Thursday's second leg against Napoli. All right, that's the latest sports. Back to you, Mark and Smitty.
And happy Easter to Sean Carter-Villas. We're done here at NTV Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Mark Masai. Happy Easter to you.
And thanks to David Agondoa, our sign language interpreter. Indeed, have yourselves a great Easter weekend. I'll be back on next week.
Tuesday.
Well, not on air on Tuesday, on Wednesday, but yeah, my point was I'm taking 4 days off.
I'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock with the update then. Have a good night.
Hey there, it's so great to have you back on NTV, the only TV station where you get to watch and win. My name is Tracy Wanjiru.
Na mimi naitwa Jeroge na tuko hapa kukuzawadi, kukupatia. Yani kabla ya msimu wa sherehe tunakupatia vocha, tunakupatia vitu safari za hapa na pale. Tunakupatia yani kazi yetu tu ni kukupatia. Jana tulipatiana vocha gapi? 4. Guess what? Leo tunapatiana gapi? 4.
And without further ado, let's get to our winners because 4 winners are waiting for us.
Oh yes, bonyeza.
And our winners for today are
and just like Purity and the others, wale ambao wamejishindia 4 vouchers worth 2,500 Kenya shillings. Guess what? Pia wewe unaweza kuwa mshindi. Na si kushinda tu hapa, tuko na safari Elementaita, tuko na safari huko Malindi, tuko na safari Mobadha, courtesy of Bonfire Adventures. And guess what, Tracy?
Yes.
Grand prize.
Our grand prize is a trip for 2 to Dubai for not just 1 night but 5 days, 4 nights. Yes, and that could be yours. All you need to do is just watch NTV. From Joroge and I, it is goodbye, happy Easter, and keep watching.
Watu washereke, tuchije.